Today's episode is brought to you by Kevel, the API-first SaaS solution proudly ushering in the retail media renaissance with their groundbreaking Retail Media Cloud. If you're sick of sharing your revenue or unimpressed by current black box solutions, there is another way, and we're not talking about building from scratch or going it alone. Kevel can help you optimize your on-site sponsored listings and boost your ROI. Help your retail media platform stand out with captivating user experiences. And best of all, you maintain full control of your data with our zero-touch data processing. The flexibility of Kevel's Retail Media Cloud is the solution built for you. To learn more, go to kevel.com/listen. That's kevel.com/listen. Welcome to the Marketecture Podcast. This week, we have a special episode where we're bringing back our favorite segment called Justify Your Existence, where we bring in very small early-stage startups to do just that and justify their existence. This week, we have 3 different startups. We have Viewst, which is a creative vendor, Advisor, which is workflow, and UPaid, which is paying consumers for their data. And everyone knows how much I love that business plan. Hope you enjoy it, and we'll be back next week with our normal episodes. Welcome to Marketecture's Justify Your Existence. I'm here today with Victoria Dubin from Viewst. Victoria, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me today.
So the company is called Viewst, that's Viewst, right?
Exactly, yes.
Okay, well, and what does Viewst do?
Viewst is a platform for creative teams to improve their production productivity. So this is a self-service for designers to speed up their variations, add creative variation scaling, to streamline the approval process with all different stakeholders, not leaving one window.
Okay. And what type of customers use it? You say designers, but is it agencies and advertisers?
You know, initially, because my background was in kind of agency side, I was considering to build this platform for agencies. But in fact, it turned out that a lot of our customers are brands because they want to take control over like production, speed of this process, and also the quality of creatives.
Okay, so why don't you walk us through how this works? Like, in what ways does a customer use this, and how does it improve their workflow?
Sure. So designers usually use like 2 types of tools, either Figma, and they are getting used to it like more and grabbing market share from Adobe, or they use like Adobe tools like Photoshop, Animate, and a bunch of others. But in fact, neither of these tools help them to automate their production workflow. So they do a design, kind of mock-up. If they want it to be animated for display ads, then they go either to plugins or Adobe Animate, or they hire like external web developer. So they do it manually, each aspect ratio, one by one. And to get this aspect ratio, they also do it manually. So they copy-paste to new dimensions every time. With Viewst, you are able to upload your mock-up either from Photoshop or Figma to Viewst, and then you simply choose your aspect ratios, click a button, and we generate it for you like in seconds, automatically. And the great thing that, of course, you know, marketers prefer moving pixels because they convert better. But in order to build like HTML ads, it's not even about funding and budgets, it's about time. So with Viewst, you animate your mockup. We have very simple animation timeline. So you animate your mockup, and then when you scale it to all other ratios, so we copy all animations. So eventually you save like hours. And if you work with a high workload, you can save days and even weeks.
So to what extent does your solution also allow for like templating to change like the copy in the ads, the pricing, the languages? Because I've seen other demos that allow that sort of thing.
Sure. So of course, you know, you can create your templates, and basically what we see, like the usage of our solution. Initially, designers spend quite some time to build templates for the brand, and then they just shorten their time spent on our platform because they simply, for each new campaign, they simply change. So they duplicate these templates from one campaign to another, and they simply change assets. I don't know, images or say price or like whatever, or copy. And the great thing that we also can help you localize it with the AI, again, with a click of a button. And another cool thing, so, you know, we had a conversation with Amazon team, and they told like in previous year, they used to work with, say, one version of static banner for their always on campaign. But now, because of like cookieless policies, they need to produce much more creative variations and ideally animated to keep users' attention and conversion at the same level. So they have to produce like 20 to 30 variations weekly, comparing to one for many years. So basically, we can help you do this with a click of a button. So you just spend your time either building your template from scratch, because we have quite a powerful editor in the browser, or you upload your mockup from Photoshop or Figma, and then you just, change assets. Because again, in our space, there are so many different solutions, which are great, but they are templatized. So they don't provide full creative freedom. And big brands who invest a lot of money into their like unique creativity, they want creative freedom. So, and Vuse helps.
Does your solution have any concept of approvals?
Yes. So this is another big market pain. I know this is a mutual use case when designers keep looking for the final version. Where is it their task manager, or maybe Google Disk, or maybe email, or somewhere. So with Vuse, you invite all stakeholders, or if you have like a big team and you don't want to invite everybody, so you share preview link. And the person who opens the link in the browser see all the variations, all ratios, and can comment either specific or the whole banner set. And we also provide like deadline, the status of the whole banner set, or each specific asset ratio. So, everybody, especially managers, they're well aware, they're on the same page with creative teams. They understand what's going on. Okay, and when like you track your deadline, you can figure out, okay, maybe I need to switch my attention to this project because, it's getting closer to a deadline.
Right. And what's the pricing model?
Okay, it's very transparent. So we charge by seat, comparing to our competitors who mostly switch to this ad serving capacities and CPM. So we charge you per seat, and you can create unlimited number of creative variations and all kinds of banners like MP4, HTML, static, whatever.
Yeah. Do you charge for the approval seats, or are those free?
Just seats. That's it.
Okay. And you mentioned ad serving. I assume you are not doing ad serving.
Oh,
right?
We don't do it for a reason. To be honest, this is my second startup. My first one was, I would call it rather DSP for rich media ads, and back then I remember that like the fast, like Beeswax. Actually, I dreamed to work with Beeswax back then, but I was too small. I met your guys in New York and they told me like, you're too small. So basically, and I've learned how saturated the market is and how like nobody needs when you're thinking about production and production pain points. So nobody needs another additional pressure on your margins because like big DSP, they already do ad serving. We have connections to big DSPs, so we can help you to streamline all your creatives directly to ad accounts. And there is another cool thing, which is one of our big prospects actually pushed us into this direction. So we are able to inform designers in real time how each creative variation performs in each specific media channel, including display ads. So if you're a brand and you send your creatives to a campaign manager and then you choose different DSPs like DV, Amazon, I don't know, Flash Talking, whatever. So basically we provide data. So we build attribution and we can provide each specific creative variation, each ratio from specific like channel.
Right. Okay, great. We skipped over the basics. So how large is your company and like employees? Have you raised any money and where are you based?
Okay, so we are a really small team working 100% remote. We are 10 people working out of 6 countries, including France, United States, Portugal, Armenia. I know one of my engineers on Bali. So like we are really small. I'm involved in business development and operations, and the rest of the team are engineers and like product design.
And do you do business in the United States? Is it a global solution?
So we are a C Corp registered in Delaware, and most of my customers are like US companies.
Got it. Okay. Last question. If Vuse was an animal, what animal would it be?
Oh, that's a simple one because on our logo, we have a chameleon. And I can tell you the story behind that. So like when I was thinking about a symbol for our idea, I started to think, okay, advertising should be creative and addressable and not obtrusive, right? And chameleon is a wonderful embodiment of creativity in nature. And I thought, okay, this animal quickly adopts to ever-evolving environment. It looks really good. So, it's a good symbol.
All right. Easy. All right. Victoria, you did a great job justifying your existence. Vuse, you should check it out. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
This podcast is brought to you by Datonix. It's a challenge for any marketer to realize they have vast amounts of data, from sales and site analytics to in-store activity, yet still know so little about their customers. Datonix Audience Insights helps marketers deep dive into their first-party data, painting a vivid picture of their audiences. With over 1,400 demographic, interest, behavioral, and preference segments, you can truly understand who your customers are, what they like, and where they shop. Get to know the customers worth marketing to. Please visit datonix.com/explore-insights to learn more. Welcome to Marketecture's Justify Your Existence, where we interview young startups to find out what they're doing and to help them justify their existence. I'm joined today by Kike Nagel, the CEO of Advisor. That's Advisor without an E, ADVSR. Kike, thank you for being here.
Great to be here.
So let's start with the company size at stage. Are you funded? How many employees you have? Where are you based?
So we're about 40 employees. We've raised some money along the way, about 12 million. And we're based everywhere. Our headquarters is in New York, but we've got folks in, I think, 14 states at the last count. So we're largely hybrid/distributed workforce.
Oh, wow. So you're a lot bigger than our typical Justify Your Existence interview. So I'm going to assume that what you do is justified. So why don't you tell me? What do you do?
Let's hope so. Yeah, so we're a software platform that enables media organizations to transact more efficiently and more effectively. What that means in practice is that, we felt like when you look at the pitch process that exists across either kind of small to mid-market agencies or media sales organizations, tech-enabled managed service companies, retail media networks, et cetera, there wasn't a lot of tools available to help them, pitch better, pitch more intelligently. Our platform is really a suite of tools that facilitates these transactions. So a media recommendation engine, effectively building a media plan in real time, proposal automation, workflow and approval, enabling organizations to kind of get through that pitch process as efficiently as possible and ultimately turn around, proposals, plans, et cetera, to their partners and customers.
Right. So your customers are media companies. They're selling ads and they get an RFP from an agency saying, hey, tell us why we should advertise. And that process is kind of burdensome and complicated. And you're trying to solve that.
Yeah, absolutely. Media companies are a core customer segment of ours. This scenario that you just articulated is exactly correct. That said, we really have four distinct customer profiles today. Media companies in the scenario that you just outlined, mid-market and long-tail agencies. They use the tool a little bit differently. They're really using the tool to facilitate automation of the planning process and pitching their clients on the media plans that they want to execute. So it's less of a kind of traditional sales process and more of planning, automation, and consistency. Tech-enabled managed service companies, so think sort of ad networks, trading desks, companies like that are executing across a range of screens and formats, are using it as really a front end to, again, plan, but also enable some self-service with their clients. And retail media networks in a similar capacity are using it to turn around proposals for their partners. So it's the same technology. The way it gets deployed is a little bit different depending on those customer segments. But ultimately, it's about kind of bringing in, robust and complex product portfolios and making it easier to organize those, those media products, those ad products into a plan that's specific to that customer.
And where do you get the data from? Do you integrate to the ad servers and the exchanges? And what sort of granularity are you pulling in?
Yeah, wonderful question. The short answer is sort of depends. We sort of hit this critical mass or this critical threshold where we've got some of our own kind of interesting and valuable first-party data, but we enable our customers to bring in their own data sets, whether that's licensed data that they're paying for, whether that's, ad server data, whether it's performance or margin, whatever it may be. So, we've kind of created the pipes that allow our clients to determine what data assets they have or want to leverage. We run it through our algorithms and then ultimately produce the outcome, enabling them to manipulate that data to produce an intended result, whether that result is performance-driven, margin-driven, kind of whatever's important to them.
There are other solutions that have been in the space for some time, like Operative, Fattail, Placements.io. So what's your angle that makes you different from all of these established companies?
Also, great question. So I started my career at Operative, and it's interesting to see how a lot of my experience there has informed what we do today. The short answer is that we view those platforms as critical for, order execution, right? Once you've sold something, you need to push into the order management system to execute. But we felt like the interface really isn't conducive to kind of an unsophisticated or non-technical ad user, i.e. a salesperson, a planner, right? Most salespeople don't need to, go through 1,000 different SKU equivalents or product line items to build a package to get their customer to buy in. So we draw a distinction between the amount of information you need to, again, to sort of win those dollars versus execute those dollars. So you can think about it as a much more sort of simple transaction-focused platform versus, the really detailed and granular order management systems.
And I assume you use AI, or at least tell your investors you use AI?
Yes, we're very careful and very sensitive to the sort of the AI craze. Yeah, absolutely. There's components of AI that exist in the platform in both proprietary tech as well as some integrations that we've brought in.
What's the business model? How do your customers pay you?
Either kind of a per user or enterprise-based fee. But despite the fact that we're managing an enormous volume of media dollars, media proposal activity, we're purely a SaaS, and we intend to remain that way.
What's the range? Like, how big do you have to be before it's worth calling you guys?
So we've got user groups as small as 5 to 7 users, and I think our largest customer is around 1,600 users. So it's a pretty big range. Obviously, the more people, the more complexity, the more value we add, but we like to think we make an impact either way. That said, I would say the bulk of our customers represent sort of enterprise class organizations. So, typically north of 100 users inside of the platform.
Got it. Okay. Last question. If Advisor was an animal, what animal would it be?
An orca.
Why is that?
The top of the food chain and, friendly but predatory when need to be.
All right. You heard it here first. Advisor, justifying its existence. And where do you find you? You have a weird spelling. Tell people where to find you.
It's advisor.com. So advisr.com. And if I can make one comment on the subject, it's amazing how many companies' names are dictated by the expense of the URL on day one of existence. So it was $1 million for the proper spelling of advisor, and it was like $100 for dropping the last vowel. So when we started the company, we went with that.
I'm going to respectfully disagree with you. It's worth $1 million. All right. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having us, Ari.
Welcome to Marketecture's Justify Your Existence. I'm here with Chris Milano, the CEO of UPaid. Chris, thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
What is UPaid?
UPaid is an acronym for User Provided Advertising ID. Basically, we're taking a consumer-first approach to identity and measurement. So we're essentially paying people to participate in personalized advertising.
All right, paid to surf the web. I've heard that one before. What's the stage of the company?
It's not a new idea. Readily admit that.
I think I've written some tweet storms about why it's a bad idea, so I want to hear your take on it. But before we do, what's the stage of the company? How many employees? What have you raised?
Yeah, so we are pre-seed. We have 2 employees. It's me and my co-founder, another guy named Chris. I'm in Boston. He's in Florida. We have some outside developers. The product, we have a prototype. We don't have a working product at this time. So we're definitely subscribing to the sell before you build model.
All right. So what does this product do?
So it depends on which stakeholder you are in the equation. But for consumers, basically what you're doing is you're downloading our browser extension. You are creating your own advertising ID, and you can basically share if you want to opt in or not to sharing that ID with advertisers and publishers. In the value exchanges, you will receive a cost of media rev share on all the ads that you see. So yeah, that's obviously for the consumer. It does a couple other cool things. It lets you basically control your consent management settings in a single place. So, rather than getting a CMP, a cookie wall on every website, we can fill that in for you as you browse the web. Kind of cool. There's another tool that does that already today called Consentomatic, which has been awesome. And then, we're also because you're earning money as you browse the web, you're going to have this money in a wallet connected to your UPaid account. And then what we're doing for publishers is we're making 2 things for them. So number one, obviously with an ID present, your ad inventory becomes more valuable just by having the ID present. And then second, we're giving them the tools to monetize their content a la micropayments. Another many tried idea that has failed in the past, but I think actually 2024 might be the time that it works.
All right. So on the advertising monetization, you have an ID for this user. Are you inserting the ID into pre-bid, and how is the money flowing back to you?
Yeah, so that's a good question. The reason we're starting with the browser extension before anywhere else is because it gives us a lot more flexibility to get our ID into the bid stream. So for now, the plan is when pre-bid is on the publisher site, we're going to be modifying the code to inject our ID, much like you would do with a regular pre-bid ID module. But instead, now the user is doing it and injecting it into the bid stream. So,
And how do you expect to get paid? What's the flow of money?
yeah. So what we're doing is once we integrate with a demand partner, we're going to be receiving the bid price, I think, encrypted in the creative of the ad so that we can actually log what the cost of the ad was and then what the user's earnings would have been. So in the browser extension, you can actually see like how many ads did you see? How much did you earn? So what we're going to be doing is billing demand directly on like a 30-day basis.
Okay, so the seller doesn't have to do anything, but the buyer has to participate.
Exactly. Yeah. We're trying to make it as seamless as possible for publishers so that like with the browser extension, you don't even need to put any UPaid code. Like the users are bringing their own ID and injecting it into the bid stream. So the publishers get the benefits of the users having an ID without having to do the legwork of integrating.
Right. And on the buy side, how would a marketer or an agency use this ID to link up to other data?
So the ID is a plugin. So it's with the user everywhere they go, as long as they've opted into sharing it. So once a demand partner integrates with us, they'll have access to that ID anywhere the user is. And you could think of it as a replacement for a cookie.
You said pre-bid was the insertion spot, but would the ID also be inserted into, say, conversion pixels?
Yeah. So the way I think about having worked at Criteo for 10 and a half years, like I always kind of envision working with Criteo at some point in the future. And so assuming Criteo or a demand source has code on page where they want to be able to track the user. So we would have to do an integration with them so that our ID can be read by their code on page and then stored on their servers. Yeah.
So you're very early stage. What's the upcoming roadmap? When is this thing going to be available to consumers? And what should we expect to see from you?
I mean, we're targeting October. We want to be like released Q4 for the Chrome sunset.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, we're 100% focused on user acquisition. Everyone I've talked to from the demand side has basically said, sounds like a really cool idea, but if you don't have users, we're not going to integrate.
Yeah.
We understand that. So fully focused on user acquisition at this point. And we just kicked off like 2 months ago. We were up to like 2,000 users on our wait list, but got a long, long way to go.
All right. Well, that sounds great. Last question. If your company was an animal, what animal would it be?
I prepared for this one.
Prepared. All right. Good.
Yeah, I know. So I came up with coral, as in like coral reef. And the reason is coral is one of the most biologically diverse ecosystems on Earth. And they make it possible for thousands of other fish and sea creatures to thrive. So much like coral, UPaid wants to provide this ecosystem for other companies to thrive in digital media. And that's what I think we're aiming to do. Also, our logo is pretty coral colored.
Chris, thank you for justifying your existence.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Thanks for listening. New interviews are added every week at marketecture.tv and your favorite podcasting app.